Today I'm finally getting around to making a video that I wanted to make for a very long time, and that is a sewing room tour. Stay tuned, I'm about to break it all down. And welcome back to my channel, Dine in Creativity. I'm Rachel Ann, and I'm here to share my sewing journey with you. The highs, the lows, try to keep it real over here, and a little bit of everything in between. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm just excited to be back today to give you a quick sewing room tour. Like I said in the intro, this is a video I've wanted to make for a very long time. I happen to love a lot of color. Now, I know that color can be a little bit overstimulating for some people, especially when you're already creating and working with colorful fabrics, but I have found that for me, I love my creative space to just invoke emotion and feeling. And so I've just chosen kind of a hodgepodge design scheme over here. And I share all of that with you to basically encourage you, make your sewing room whatever way you want it to be that feels good for you. If you like a nice neutral, open space, go for it. And I just love when people share their sewing room tours, because I think you can pull a little bit from every video and just see different organizational strategies as well as design strategies, all that good stuff. So without further ado, let me get into it. I promised you that I would talk to you about how I have decided as of recently to really organize my patterns. This is an ongoing work in progress. Let me just be honest with you. Everything initially started being housed in this box, which I believe I got it from Home Goods or something like that. I actually got several other boxes. I'll show you the other ones in a second, that I just thought would be great for storage. And so how I've tried to work out what is immediately available are some of my absolute favorite patterns, things that I know I just like to pull out and start sewing with. You probably will recall my very easy, very vogue vintage pattern that I found at a thrift store. This one has been one of my go-tos, and so it immediately gets placed in my go-to easy to pull storage area. And I'll show you how I've decided as of right now to organize my other patterns. I don't know about you, but the more patterns that you start to bring into your mix, the less room you have, and storage really becomes a little bit of an issue. So I found these great binders on Amazon. I like the colors. They're all these pastel colors, and that is how I have decided to start organizing my patterns. So I immediately know what color coincides with what pattern type. So blue are tops, and what I do is just go ahead and put them in the single sleeve, sleeves here, and kind of go from there. And as I start using them and cutting them, then I know I can just immediately pull out these pre-cut patterns and you're good to go. You give them a quick iron, all the directions are in each one. And so far, this has been really helpful. It's been really nice for me just to kind of have all of these squared away in these different binders. I know that purple is pants, so I automatically coincide that one. And again, I linked all my different binders and even the Amazon Basics sleeves, clear sleeves that you can order on my Amazon store. The link is in the description. But this is probably the most used binder. It houses all of my dresses. And I even set it up so that when I use patterns, and I'm holding this up right now, when I use patterns that I print out, I've yet to put this one together, but it's a free mood belly dress that I can't wait to sew up. This is also gonna be a great place, I feel, to store them. So in all honesty, this plan appeared to work out really well until the Simplicity pattern sale. Everything was going fine and great until I made a very large purchase. This is when, I think I talked about it in my last video, but they had all of their patterns 70% off, and that included the sale price. And so I just went so wild getting more, but I found some really great patterns. I may make a second or a separate video to talk about some of these, because some of them are old school. So they were $1.20, something like that, by the time I had that 70% off sale. But yeah, I found some great McCall's patterns. I won't get too much into that today, but the pattern organizational strategy was working out great until I brought more patterns in. So I'm going to continue to probably make binders, just because this is a method that has worked well for me. And it also just streamlines things a little bit, and I may just have to start storing them in my closet behind me. But this is how I've done it for right now. But I'm always interested to hear how other people organize their patterns and what you have found has been helpful, because the plight of sewing, you start bringing in all these different supplies, and then you got to find, of course, some kind of way to store everything. And if not, it can get out of hand real quick. Or so I have experienced with just patterns in this area, over here, all over the place. And I think if I can keep everything together and do so in a way that I know where everything is, it makes sewing a little bit more expeditious, efficient, all those good things. If you watch some of my earliest videos, and you can scroll all the way back to take a peek, I used to take over my dining room in my old house in Virginia and just go to town sewing. And so at this point, to have a space dedicated to this creative outlet, I'm really happy. But I also want to just say, don't let not having a sewing room keep you from sewing. I feel the same way about painting. I'm a huge artist, and I'll share some of my pieces with you in a second, but I've always had that philosophy, no matter what space I'm in, creating a little nook or area where I can paint, or you can sew, or do whatever, because I feel like creativity is so important and such a great way to express yourself, relax, make time for you. So I just want to normalize, make time, make a place if you really feel called to engage in a creative outlet. I know that the lighting isn't the best on my side right now, but I don't really care about me not having a lot of light. What I really wanted to show you was my painting wall. I know this is usually my backdrop, but these are just some of the pieces that I have painted over the past several years. I was raised in a house where artwork was everywhere, and my mom is an artist, my dad is an artist. They always kind of raised me with the belief, if you love something in your decor, you can always make it work. And so I have definitely taken a page from their playbook. I always had a very eclectic home growing up: antiques, mid-century modern, French provincial, I guess you could call it, which I have some lamps that my mom had gifted me that I love. They're from an antique store. I've had mid-century modern, those huge lamps from the 1960s that my mom had gifted me, and I just find it to be so much fun. Also just wanted to share my space for that added encouragement. If you love it, you can make it work, and you can throw many different styles together. You know, I was talking at the beginning of this video about bright colors, and some people thrive off of neutrals. And it's interesting, in any creative space I've had, even I used to paint on my kitchen table. I would paint all of these bright pieces of art, hang them up in the kitchen, and then I just felt inspired by all the colors. And so throw it all together, it's your space. Interestingly enough, the rest of my house is actually pretty neutral, and I find that it's very relaxing, the low stimulus after a long day, just to curl up and be cozy and comfortable. So the rest of my home is gray, beige, that cognac brown color with some pops of dark brown wood, things of that nature. But when it comes to the art room, the creative space, it's got to be an explosion of color. So I just wanted to show you some of these. This one was one of my most recent pieces that I painted. My mom actually got me this. This is by an artist named Ches Marie. She paints angels and ethereal type artwork. And I just thought that it was so gorgeous, and I was so happy to get that from my mom. This is another piece a childhood good friend, when she traveled, had gotten me, and I just love the whimsical fairy nature. This was an impasto technique piece I had done, trying to try a different style. Again, I'm very much into textured artwork, and so I had painted this many years ago. And honestly, same with this one. That's an old school piece. And then just another recent one I had done. Now I gotta get into probably the most important part of the sewing room, the sewing machine. I truly researched high and low for the best beginner sewing machine, and repeatedly kept seeing that Brother XM2701 was highly recommended. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what, this has been one of the best purchases I've made. I believe I got it from walmart.com. It was on sale for $224, if I can recall, if memory serves me, but it was in that $200 range. And I'm gonna tell you what, this thing is small but mighty. I have sewn on it for the past a little over 2 years. And it has been one of the most intuitive, easy to navigate machines. It comes with a very comprehensive instruction booklet. It has many 27 different stitches that you can utilize, buttonhole capability. All your thread tension is up at the top, which is, you kind of can play around with it. They give recommendations in the instruction booklet that the machine comes with. It was packed wonderfully, and literally I received it, plugged it in, watched a couple YouTube videos on how to put the needle in, how to thread the bobbin, and within a couple hours I was already sewing that first day. So I can't recommend this machine enough to you. I really think it deserves, honestly, its own video, just to really go through and review all of the different capabilities that it has. But again, it's Brother XM2701 Machine. You may even still be able to find it on walmart.com. This is where I sit when I'm having to rip out all of the seams on a garment I've just sewn up. No, that's also where I like to sit and talk to my mom sometimes. This was a cute little desk I found on Amazon. I believe I linked it in my Amazon store. I put that baby together, but I just needed a small space to house the sewing machine. Like I said in my last video, this room is actually going to be a guest room. And so the bed, let me bring this over here. I'm gonna have to put a little twin or little, a small bed over in this area, but I'll make it work. And these were the other 2 boxes that I got in the set from Home Goods. I got my trash can from Target. I really just tried to fill this space with things I loved. The curtains are from Amazon. Last time I checked, they were out of stock, but if they get in stock, I'll add them to my Amazon store. This dress form was a gift from my husband for my birthday a year or so ago. It is an adjustable dress form. I know I have my apron. That apron just lives on here. It's an apron dress, but I actually have sadly not worn it, but I love it so much. I think it's almost just a display item at this point. But the dress form has been great. I certainly use that quite a bit. This piece right here is actually a butcher block. It's almost an extension or a miniature island that you can put in a kitchen. My mom gave this to me probably 15 years ago when I got one of my first apartments, and it has traveled from Florida to Virginia to now California. Like I said, it's really a butcher block table for a kitchen area. Do I care? No, I do not care. I love it. It works perfect for my sewing room. I keep additional fabric in these drawers, and I really try to go through it to let certain little scraps go. Got my, of course, my pleated little scraps. This is what I experiment on when I sew too. Sometimes to get a feel for how something is gonna sew up, I always try to use a little scrap from when I cut the fabric to experiment with it. And this is where I tried to see what it would be like making that little, the border on it. It's kind of blurry. And then this is where I store all of my fabric that I have not yet cut. It's brand new from Joann Fabrics. The first thing I always do with any of the fabrics that I purchase is immediately wash it, dry it, and then I fold it and it goes in this little cabinet right here. And I found that this really works for me, just to be able to try not to overload this. And this is also how I keep a gauge on what exactly I have that's uncut, ready to be worked with, and when to know, okay, it's time to slow down. I don't need to buy any fabric. Look at what I already have in here to sew up. And with that being said, this little compartment right here is where I keep fabric, where I still have substantial pieces, but I've already made something with it. There's no right or wrong way to organize, in my opinion. It's just creating a system that works. This is uncut, but that is a shower curtain, originally from Target, but I found it at the thrift store. I thought it'd be great just to practice with. But yeah, so I keep all of my larger pieces of already used fabric in here. Don't you just love rattan? I think it's so cute. And this is a cute little desk, but this is where I keep my thread, obviously, in a tape measure. You never know when you'll need a tape measure, so I use that thing all the time. When I sew with my machine, and I know I'm jumping all over the place, but just a side note, your Brother XM2701 Machine comes with this tray, but it's actually the piece that goes here to extend it. I never sew with that. So this is where I house all my clips. I just find I like to get really up close with and personal with the fabric. And so I really just use this arm, but if you put the tray on, it would add this much width to it in length. So just an option if you go with that machine. This is my controlled chaos drawer. These are all jacket zippers. And this is just where I keep my elastic. This is great elastic. I linked it all on Amazon in my link in description down below. This is black elastic that I found. Great prices. I'd ordered all of these clips also on Amazon. You already know, link down below. I only link things I've purchased. And then of course I keep all my bias tape, extra bobbins, basically the things that are large enough that they're not going to get lost in the shuffle, but they need their own little home. My mom had actually given me a set of these. I believe that they're in the style of French Provincial. I don't know though. My parents have been big antique collectors for a really long time, and I am just so wild about this lamp, about the colors in it. I love it. This is also the basin. Now look, this is my non-technical way of storing items. This is where I keep my go-tos, my zipper foot, safety pins, needles I'm not using, additional needles. Very non-technical way of storing, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. So that's what I have. I don't know if you're familiar with Mackenzie Childs, but my mom just got me totally turned on to their website. This was from their barn sale. I finally got it in and I do love it. But basically I'm just over here because I want to show you, I just keep my cutting mat on the ground. Yeah, nothing too exciting, but I do find that it's nice to be able to lay large pieces of fabric out. This room is just not large enough to have a large working, so big work table. I would love that, and part of me regrets purchasing such a tiny sewing desk, but once I put a bed in here, this room is just going to get super tiny. And so trying to really make this space work as much as I can. you know, we all have our dreams. I would love to have a massive room with an 8-foot by 4-foot sewing table where I could stand and cut. Sometimes I do take this down and use the kitchen table, but most of the time I don't. Let's just be honest. I just make it work in here. And so I share that too. Make your space work. It may not be your ideal setup in certain respects, and you may have those dreams to come, but as long as you're doing the creative outlet, make it work. By this point, I know that you've noticed that there is a mirrored wall over here. These are pants that I sewed. They're retro pattern, and this was a little self-drafted top. I'll just show it to you since I'm, you know, got a mirror right here anyways. But this is what makes a room, you know, I don't love a mirrored wall by any stretch of the imagination, but I will share it absolutely comes so in handy when you're needing to try something on. Boom, built-in mirror. But it really creates the whole loss of one room when you do have that mirror. But what you gonna do? You make it work. That's the theme of today's video. And there you have it. This is my sewing room. She's small, but she's mighty. A lot of good work goes on in here. A lot of phone calls with my mom, a lot of podcasts listening, a lot of YouTube video watching. I always put my headphones in and then just get to work. I listen to a lot of music. But I hope you enjoyed this tour of my sewing room today. I believe that my next video is going to be what accidentally became the inadvertent green and white collection. I don't quite know what happened. I guess my mood was attracted to various colors of green and white because I have what I'm calling the inadvertent green and white collection that I will be showing you. A range of different pieces. They are all so different styles, but they all ended up being variations of green and white. So I'll have that coming up. There is another video I'm thinking about making just because I randomly popped into a thrift store a couple weeks ago. And it's always when you don't expect to find a lot that you find some really interesting pieces. So I've got a couple different pieces I'm planning to upcycle and change. I'm talking dresses that still have the tags on them. I found a vintage Christian Dior bathrobe. So all kinds of fun stuff and some great jewelry. So if you would be interested just in seeing some of those items or hearing about the upcycling plans, feel free to comment below. And then last but certainly not least, if you organize your patterns in a way that's been super effective for you, if you store your fabric in a certain way that's been helpful, or just other things about your sewing space that you would like to share with me, I would love to hear about it. I love hearing from everyone who comments. You guys have honestly helped me so much in terms of giving me tips and ways to become a better sewist. So I appreciate all the shared wisdom on this channel. As always, thank you so much for watching. Happy creating, happy sewing, and be well.